Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. I'm doing this on New Year's Eve. Some parts of the world, it's already the new year. Happy New Year to you guys, but by the time I upload this video, it'll be January 1st, 2023 for everybody. But I'm recording this on New Year's Eve, and I've decided to put up another Walt Disney Classics collection piece. So this one is Mr. Toad from the movie The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. But even though it's from the movie, the Walt Disney Classics Collection series that this is a part of is of Fantasyland, because there's a ride in Fantasyland at Disneyland in Anaheim called Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And this is sort of like a homage to that. And the Walt Disney Classics Collection series did a whole bunch of Fantasyland rides. It was kind of cute. They took the actual, how can I say this? They took the actual like cart you get on, and then they put like a character in it. And so for instance, for Snow White's Scary Adventure at the time, they put Grumpy, in the ride, and then for here, of course, they put Mr. Toad. Who else, right? Who else but Mr. Toad could they put in Mr. Toad's car? And for Peter Pan, they actually put Mr. Smee in the Peter Pan ship. They had Timothy in the Dumbo ride, and of course the Mad Hatter in the Alice's Teacup ride. So this is part of that series. The title is called Wild Ride, and just a few particulars from the Walt Disney Classics Collection Duckman website, which still, even though it's been defunct for many, many years, I think still has, some of the most accurate information on all of these pieces out there. So it's about 5.5 inches tall, and it's sculpted by Chris Peterson. This was an exclusive release at the 2002 Disneyana Convention, which was held August 22nd to August 24th in 2002 at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. It's a limited numbered edition of only 500 pieces plus 10 artist proofs, and mine is 491 out of 500. It's actually the first Walt Disney Art Classics release for Disneyana that was based on a theme park ride versus an animated film. So that has that distinction. Now, for those of you that have followed some of my reviews, you'll know that Walt Disney, that Disneyana exclusive releases are pretty special. They tend to be numbered and limited, so way smaller edition size than what the Walt Disney Classics Collection normally releases back in those days. Way more limited, and they usually want to do something to really knock your socks off. So examples of previous Disneyana exclusives are like sort of the big baddies, right? The big Disney villains like Chernabog's Night on Bald Mountain, Monstro the Whale, Maleficent Dragon, Big Willie from Fun and Fancy Free, Mickey and the Beanstalk. These are big, heavy hitters. And they usually are very, very, again, ambitious. And sad to say, Wild Ride in 2002 actually marked the very last Disneyana convention. Now, this piece may not have the grandeur or the size or the pedigree or legacy of some of what I listed, but I hope that when I go over this with you, you'll see that it also represents quite a bit of ambition, and in my opinion, is not a lesser piece in its own way than some of those big villain pieces in previous Disneyanas. So, one of the things I love about every Walt Disney Classics Collection piece are the plussing, right? Walt Disney himself loved that term plussing, which is to add a little bit something more, to plus something, to make it that much more special, that much more unique. He loved to do this for Disneyland, and kind of to honor that, when Roy Disney started the Walt Disney Classics Collection line, that concept of plussing was very important. Of course, it was hard for them to maintain that for the hundreds of pieces they released over those decades. But I think that a lot of pieces, they did make an effort to at least put a little something extra, a little bit of extra magic or pixie dust to make it a bit more special. That's what plussing is. And so for Wild Ride, these are the little extra pluses. So the steering wheel and the wheels and the grill are all made out of pewter. Mr. Toad's hand and feet are made out of pewter as well. You can see that the hand's actually attached to the steering wheel, so that makes sense. Meanwhile, the wheel axles, the lap bar, the running board, and the fenders, so all of this stuff here, those are all actually made out of bronze. And the lamp assembly, which is right over here, is also made out of pewter and bronze as well. So definitely, very ambitious in terms of the mixed media nature. And of course, everything else is porcelain. Another thing you'll notice if I move back a little bit is that he's sort of at a little bit of an angle. And so that has to do with the base. So essentially the car fits onto the base, and the base has an angle that's actually tilted. And so it gives you, again, this sort of illusion that he's careening all over the place, which is, if you've seen either the animated short or you've been on the ride, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride at Disneyland, is the idea. So that was, I thought, kind of a little neat and clever little bit of engineering. It also explains why the base, even though you'll never see it, the base often has little tiny scratch marks, because it's obviously very difficult to put the car completely on the base without moving it around a little bit. And so you often see little tiny scratches on the undersurface of the piece as well as on the base itself, which of course is invisible, and in my opinion does not really detract from the value or the displayability of the piece. So here you have it. The car itself is a near perfect replica of what you would get into at the ride at Disneyland. You can see the beautiful detail where this little crank is actually also reproduced. The nice wheels, again, all of this here is bronze, as is this with the pewter headlights. You see Mr. Toad on the front, you see the grill, you can see the porcelain, the attention to detail of the porcelain cushions. It really looks like leather, at least from here. You can see the gold trim, the steering wheel. I'm going to just sort of linger a little bit on how nice those headlamps are. You can see the door handles as well on either side. Very, very beautiful. And then Mr. Toad himself, apart from the feet and the hands, of course, in fine porcelain. And I just really love the expression on his face, that type of like wild, mad, reckless joy. And then also the pose where he's like flying around the corner. I mean, it really, the way he's sculpted, the way that the car is tilted, the way he's hanging on, for dear life to the steering wheel. And, he's kind of, he's tilted the opposite direction of the car. It just gives you sort of that impression that he's like flying around the corner, barely in control. Very, very, I think, true to the spirit of the animated picture as well as to the ride itself. And so I really love, again, kind of getting a little bit close up. I love the pose, the energy in the pose, and how he's sort of, integrated into the car itself. Again, it's a smaller piece. You can see this is my hand. It fits basically in the palm of my hand very easily, but there's definitely a hefty weight to it. And he is very rare. Any, I think, Disney Classics collection piece with an edition size less than 1,000, in my opinion, is very rare and likely to maintain value, if not increasing value. And when you dip below 1,000, when you're looking at the 750 range or even lower in the 500 range, as with this piece, they become extremely difficult to get and sought after, okay? Because when you think about the number of Disney fans that are out there, then these edition sizes are very, very different. And 500, when considering how many Disney collectors are out there, this is very, very hard to find. And so it is one of the, in my opinion, one of the crown jewels of the Walt Disney Classics collection, just because it's just a great piece. It's the last piece in the Disneyana line. So it kicks it off, it finally ends it in style, not kicks it off would be the first piece, right? And it has a lot of that plussing elements, a lot of ambition in the pose, ambition in the multimedia aspects of it. I mean, it takes a lot of labor, a lot of work to, you know, create the porcelain pieces, which in and of itself is quite a bit of, you know, a process. But then because you have so many elements like the wheel, the axle, again, you know, the hands, that's out of pewter, that's bronze, that's not porcelain. There's a lot of moving parts that you have to put together. And you can see he can be very fragile. The way he was packaged was, you know, very meticulously packaged. There's a lot of foam that has to be, you know, placed in between to try to buffer him from snapping off where he's holding the steering wheel. So all in all, a very, very, you know, beautiful and ambitious piece, a very rare piece. And in my opinion, you know, again, a worthy way to end the Disneyana series, even though he's not as big as a Chernobog or Monstro or whatnot. He's more of like, you know, a smaller piece because the movie was released so long ago. So there you have it. You know, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And he also has some personal meaning for me because, you know, the ride has some meaning because, of course, I live in Southern California, so I don't really go to Disney World all that much. And I take my family to Disneyland in Anaheim quite often. And this was the ride that I took my older daughter on when she was just 4 years old, and she absolutely loathed the ride. She hated the ride because it was, you know, it was kind of scary and dark. You know, for those of you who've gone through it, you'll know that's kind of creepy. It's kind of like an old school, you know, Disney animated picture. She didn't understand it. You know, you took a little trip to hell, by the way, right? And for those of you who know what I'm talking about, you'll be smiling right now. And for those of you who don't, I suggest you YouTube it and you'll see what's going on. But she absolutely hated the ride. And then later on, as she got older, she started to enjoy it more. But I remember, you know, clearly, you know, she's 14 now, so this is 10 years ago. I remember clearly when I took her off the ride when she was 4, she screamed at me to never, ever take her on that ride again. And now, of course, I took my younger daughter, who's, you know, just turned 8. And when she was about 6 or 7, we went on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and she had a slightly better experience. Although the first time she was also a little bit out of sorts. And so it kind of gives me these memories of this ride freaking out both of my daughters when they were little girls, you know? So I think that's pretty funny. It brings back good memories of that. And I'm just really, really pleased to have it in my collection. He's a difficult piece to find. But I did manage to get him, and his value is, you know, pretty strong. I mean, he's going to go for anywhere from, I think, you know, $700-800 to even $1,000. I mean, he'll be high hundreds, you know, in the $700 to $1,000 range if you can even find him for sale these days. So again, those are my thoughts on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And from here, you know, I actually now have every Disneyana release with only 2 exceptions. One is Snow White waking up to her prince. And the other one is the very first release for the very first Disneyana convention, which is from the 101 Dalmatians. Although that release I don't count too much because there's another version identical to that was available to the public. And the only thing special about, I think it's the Pongo from the 101 Dalmatians, is just that the base says Disneyana release. So to me, that doesn't quite count as a true Disneyana exclusive. So the only real exclusive I'm missing is the Snow White one. And I'm hesitant to get that just because I'm not the biggest Snow White fan, and that piece has never really spoken to me much. And so I'm at this point, I'm pretty done with Disneyana pieces. At least I'm pretty happy with all the ones that I got. So once again, Happy New Year, happy 2023. And until next time, do take care.